Hey. It's Tyree and Kevin with Before I Forget. Say, hey, Kevin.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, there it is. So we're going to hop right into our 90-something show, which is fucking awesome.
That's a big number, man.
Ain't it? You
Isn't
know
it?
why? Because we're fucking awesome. That's why.
I mean, I think we're mildly entertaining at best.
Okay. Sure. I'll take that. Somebody likes the shit. So today, or the day that you guys are going to hear this, is going to be Martin Luther King Day. It's a big holiday. It's nationally. Wait, do we want to get into this, or oh wait,
Let's get into it.
Okay, all right, we can get into that.
Yeah, we're already here. Here we are.
Yeah, I know. Fucking, I didn't. We brainstormed this, folks. We sat there and talked about stuff, but I've had one or two smokes today in celebration of the 49ers because we're going to the next round. Thank you very much.
Super Bowl or whatever.
Nah, it's just the divisional. They ain't
divisional.
We got like 3 more games, but we're gonna win them.
They beat the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Actually, so one of the former Arkansas Razorbacks played for the fucking Seahawks, and I just after that game last night, after the ass whooping that the Seahawks took from the 49ers, Alex Collins posted on his Instagram that he was going to the USFL to play for the Memphis Showboats.
Okay.
And so Alex Collins was a big name in Arkansas. He was a very, very big name, and he was projected to do super, super well in the pros, but so was Darren McFadden, who was also a big name. So Darren McFadden, Alex Collins, and Herschel Walker are like the top 3,000-yard something or other. I don't fucking know numbers and things. I don't remember shit. I was asleep since then. But anyway, and only Herschel Walker went to the pros and actually showed us, went off and did some shit, while the other two were kind of injury stricken and whatever else. But anyway, so Alex Collins, for you Razorback fans, which is me, is going to the Memphis Showboats. And I would like to think that it had something to do with the 49ers laying down a big fucking hurting. I watched the end of that, the second half of that game. I was at the gym, and dude, it was the 49ers, they were putting it fucking down, dude. Did you watch that game?
It was a little scary. Yeah, fuck yeah, I watched the whole thing. It was a little scary because we were down at the half by a point.
Yeah.
And what the fuck is going on here? I know it's the playoffs, but Seahawks ain't shit. I'm sorry if you're a Seahawks fan, but your team ain't shit. So when they took the lead, I'm like, oh shit, this is some crazy, crazy shit about to go down. Like what just happened to the Vikings, whatever, it's cool. We won. We stomped the shit out of them in the second half. Now we're gonna go. We're I'm on the field. They're gonna go and play the Giants now, and that's gonna be a fun game. So it's gonna be fun to watch them play that game.
Well,
as a fan of the team that I root for,
it is worth mentioning that they were down a point when the half started. The second half started. What was the final score again? 41 to who showed up on the other side?
It wasn't even fucking worth it. The
thing
is,
I'm saying, though, they got their asses fucking.
Yeah, as a team, they got together because they're like, this is some bullshit. Because I was in the locker room. I listened to the interviews that they were given after the game. They're like, yeah, in halftime, we were all like, come on, brother, we got to get into this shit. Pumping each other up, it's a brotherhood and all this kind of shit. It's that's why I love the team that is the 49ers, because there's so much pride in the shit that they do. It's cool to like some prideful shit. Fuck it. And now that's my shit. I love the Niners. So there you go. Booyah.
Yep.
Motherfucker.
Good job.
Yeah. Not go
49ers.
Niners. Go Niners. Yay. And hopefully the team that you cheer for, if it wasn't the team that we were playing against, hopefully they did well.
Who? Oh,
All the other
them?
teams played.
People
Who
listening and
cares?
watching?
Yeah, people listening and watching. Hopefully your team did great. But
Unless it's the Cowboys.
yes, definitely.
I can't. I got no fucking. I don't have a dog in the fight, so I don't give a fuck. But hey, I'm just here for the ride. Go team. Good job. Sports. I can't say that because it makes me seem like I'm not like I'm not into sports. Like I don't really care about teams unless it's like Arkansas. Like I am from here, so like it's
You
obviously
know
like
what?
my
What
go-to.
you're like hardcore Arkansas as fuck, man. Like I love California, but you like Arkansas like this. You can name Arkansas fucking college football players and all this kind of shit. Most people that I know can only like name their team and then they can't name like some history about that team. And it's funny that, me and Walker had a show, last week where we spoke about knowing where you came from.
Yeah.
And clearly you know where you came from. So it's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
well, my birth certificate definitely says Fort Smith, Arkansas. So, um,
Rep
I
that.
definitely do know that says that. No, like, and it's funny actually. So like this beer that I'm drinking, for example, is a brand called Lost 40, out of Little Rock, Arkansas. It's Have an Ice Day Arkansas Winter IPA, a piney red IPA. So that's an Arkansas beer. One of my top favorite beers ever is a brand called Diamond Bear out of Little Rock, and I drink local. I shop local. I like my steak. Goddamn, I got a fucking Arkansas tattoo.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, yeah,
That's hardcore. That's so you're a fucking gang member, basically.
yeah. No, for real.
Gang banger.
Um,
Arkansas banging on wax or whatever the fuck.
banging on wax. No, it's funny because like when I travel outside of the state, like a lot of times, like if I travel anywhere like out west or even up north, like most people can't even point out Arkansas on a map, right? Map of the states without the names, people are like pretty hard pressed to like Arkansas,
Yeah.
right?
It's not,
If I say, hey, like what's next to give me one state that borders Arkansas, and I'll get some wild shit like Alabama, Georgia, Virginia. They're just naming southern states because they think Arkansas is near the South.
Florida.
Arkansas is in the South, and we don't actually count Florida as southern, but so it's a whole thing. So there's a lot of pride in like these like lost and forgotten states. So definitely pretty proud of my home.
Hell yeah.
Even though we have some really dumb fucking archaic bullshit fucking laws because our politicians are fucking people that suck. Anyway,
So what kind of laws do y'all have that are bullshit and archaic?
I mean, right now, so for and this is going to sound pretty counter um to my southernness, right? But like I'm a pretty open person, right? A lot of people might look at me or look at some of my Instagram posts or even hear some of the stories that we tell and think that I'm pretty conservative, and I'm actually more down the middle, right? I'm more down the middle than I am conservative. So I'm not I have some pretty like mildly liberal beliefs and some conservative beliefs, but I would say I'm down the middle. So
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas is pretty against like certain LGBT community things. Um and that's a bummer. Um and I think they, if I'm not mistaken, I really don't pay attention to a lot of it, and I probably should. But as a functioning adult, I probably should pay more attention to what's being voted on within my state. But like, um, abortion laws are not good here. Like I am pro-choice. Like I don't, you know, I mean, you do what you want to do with your fucking body. I get it. Like, but I'm also one of those people that like how I define life is how I define life, and it's different from how other people define life. So I get it. Like every differences, opinions, et
Mm-hmm.
cetera, so on. But like Arkansas is not very pro life. They're very, or I'm sorry, pro choice. I'm retarded. Can I say that?
No.
I should not say that. But no, I'm very pro choice, right? So like that needs to be um I don't know, man. Like it's not for me to decide. So I'm very pro choice, but like Arkansas is not. They're very pro life. And there's just some other archaic laws that they have on the books. Like there's one like uh a man and a woman are not allowed to be nude in front of each other in a public setting or in something other than private settings. Does that make sense? So like a private residence, like let's say in my backyard, I can have my friends over and we can all be naked and that's fine. But like
Mhm.
um let's say, like I run a nude resort, right?
Mhm.
I cannot do that unless it's like gender specific.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really weird. And so Arkansas actually has a more like a nude resort up in Eureka Springs, like an hour and a half from me, whatever. And it's all men. So naturally it became um a certain type of crowd that would go there, which is fine,
Mhm.
no big deal. But
Yeah. Whatever
you
you
know,
get it.
yeah. So I mean, but I think that really I think that really is like any state, like everybody can find something that they don't dig about their home, right? Just
Mhm.
like, there's something that anybody can find in anything they don't like.
Yeah.
But all we can do is strive to make things better, right? Like we can just push towards like, hey, this is not something that I do that I agree with.
Mhm.
Let's make it better.
Yeah. Hopefully, everyone's better is a good thing because a lot of times
Mm.
certain people's better is not necessarily better for everyone else.
Absolutely, man.
Uh,
Absolutely.
I guess it's important for you to vote. You know, it really matters who you put in the office. Like that dude from New York who's lying about everything, or who lied about everything that he's about. That's
Yeah.
way out of control, man. Like, how does he still have a job?
Yeah.
Uh,
Like
how can
you
you trust him
like
with anything?
absolutely. Like you literally lied on your resume to get this like big ass position, and
Yeah.
now how are the people or anybody supposed to trust you to be able to do your job? Like
Mhm.
surely he will be removed from his position. You
Hopefully,
know, you think?
yeah, sure.
I mean,
He didn't lie about like little stuff. He lied about little stuff, big stuff, everything. He said this fool, this motherfucker said he was the first person that got COVID in New York.
verifiable.
Okay, yeah, really? Like all kind of just like crazy shit. Like, oh, he worked on a NASA program. He was an astronaut. All kind of like, dog. Are you like 12? No, that's not even 12-year-old shit. It's like fucking 7-year-old stuff where you just create your own fantasy world in your head and you live it out. And if you're believable enough, people fall for it and they vote you in the office, which is crazy as fuck.
That is, in my opinion, akin to somebody lying on their resume saying that they did 8 years of schooling to become some type of medical doctor. Their residency was done here. And I'm applying to be a, cardiologist. And
Mm-hmm.
now I'm taking people's like life. I'm taking people's lives into my own hands, literally in some cases. Like like because as an elected official, that's what you're doing,
Yeah,
right? Like your job is to be the people's voice at the levels higher than you. And here you are lying just to get into this position. Um,
yeah, man.
that's dangerous. So
That's real dangerous. But you get who you vote for, so please pay attention.
yeah, man, that's one of my. I have a huge complaint with how the voting process works. There was a couple years ago, there was a thing on the ballot here in Arkansas about term limits, right? Like a lot of people in the state have been requesting or wanting term limits with our elected officials. Um, and so that was voted on. And when you the day you went to vote on it, when you read through the fine print, which a lot of people don't tend to do, when you read through the fine print, it says, okay, I am voting for term limits, but I am agreeing to allowing elected officials to select their own salaries.
Hmm.
Is that not fucked up? So to say like, okay, well, you know what? I am voting against term limits. I'm therefore I'm saying I'm open to an elected official serving as many terms as possible if they get elected, but they
Mm-hmm.
have a set salary, right? It cannot be changed. Whereas, I okay, well, I just got elected as, a congressman for the state. I am coming into this position and I think that I deserve $160,000 a year. I'm only able to serve 2 terms, 3 terms, 1 term, whatever it may be. But here's the salary that I'm choosing to select for my position.
Hmm.
No, 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 no. When I vote for something, if I am voting for term limits, the only thing on that ballot needs to be I vote for or against term limits, period.
Yeah.
Nothing to follow.
That's the issue with a lot of these fucking laws that they try to push through is there's something piggybacked on it. A lot of times, a lot of
Yeah.
these bills that the spending bill and all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, it sounds great. It's got a veteran shit in this bill that would really help out a lot of vets, get housing or something like that. But it's
Yeah.
also attached to this bill. I mean, this part that says, they can drill oil over here, for XYZ reasons. Like,
Right.
it's not like if they were two separate bills, cool, I would vote for that. Yeah, not for that or whatever the fuck. But make it make more sense. Our government is I don't want to debash on our government because America, bang bang. But uh like we
Yeah.
have things that can be fixed or corrected. Um
Well, and so in saying that, like you can surely kind of understand the handful of people in America for voting for Trump for the reason they voted for Trump because of this whole like he's not a politician
mhm,
and he was promising draining the swamp, right? So when you look at it from that perspective, it's easy to be like, oh, okay, I can kind of see the direction they were going with that, right?
mhm,
Like, oh, okay, so he's not these like career politicians who've been in it for 30, 40, fucking 50 fucking years.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's a businessman. Government, if you look at it, it could be considered a business as well. It's all wheeling and dealing and money here and money there. So and Trump has been fairly successful in that in his business life. So he might be a good fix for that.
Mhm,
So you can kind of maybe understand like, oh, okay, yeah, I get why you would vote for that dude with that in mind.
yeah.
But the guy just wouldn't shut up.
I
We
think
needed
everything that you said was cool. Like, yeah, I would want to see some crazy shit like that happen, something different. Like, I'm not voting for Biden because, you know, this motherfucker has hidden fucking documents too. Like, goddamn,
right,
give me a break. Make it make sense.
bro, and
Anyway, like he's been
well,
in office for too long for that kind of shit to happen. And my understanding is like he was like rushed out, so like shit was just left there with his Corvette. But whatever the fuck, like,
dude.
dude, get it right.
So here's the thing: he has been a politician for 40 years, 40 plus years,
Yeah.
and he just recently got caught with like classified documents in various locations. So Trump had it in his Mar-a-Lago place, and that's up to debate, right? Because they don't know if it was a plant. That's a whole thing, right?
No, I ain't
Allegedly, well, I know. We weren't there when it was found,
get that shit.
so we'll say allegedly, right? Allegedly found in his Mar-a-Lago place, right? Meanwhile, it's been allegedly, we'll give him the same credit, found in his garage at the University of Pennsylvania in a think tank office that he had there. I think it was University of PA.
Mhm.
And some of these go back to when he was vice president,
Yeah,
right? So like,
crazy.
and he's been in politics for 40 fucking years. So what other things has he left in other places?
Hmm.
I don't know. It's kind of wild.
But people have to understand like the difference between these two dudes and their fucking top secret documents is one guy took them and one guy forgot them, and they're both bad. Like, dude, you can't forget top secret shit just over there.
Yeah.
They walked in there and they're like, oh shit.
Oh. fuck. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I meant to grab that when I left, but
Yeah.
you know me. I had some prune juice. I had to shit. So,
But
oops.
I'm sure it wasn't him doing the moving because that would be ridiculous. So somebody missed something. I don't know. Maybe that's the excuse.
Yeah.
But
Well, you know,
like,
and
bro,
not to sound like a, over the top Trump supporter or anything, but like in his defense, he even made the promise that, he wasn't going to use taxpayer money to support his living at the White House while he could just work out of Mar-a-Lago. So he was approved to work out of there and, be president out of his estate at Mar-a-Lago. So it would make sense that he would have top secret documents there. But why would he have them there after his presidency?
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But
Stop.
that's
Make,
that's
make
that's
sense.
that's neither here nor there, right? Like that's way above our pay grades. We're just two dudes doing a podcast about this or that, and while living in America, and like you said, make it make sense, man, because this is our country, and I want it to be better. You want it to be better, and I think we should mention somebody who also wanted it to be better, and who ultimately paid the ultimate amount, right? The ultimate fucking sacrifice for making it better. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Who am I talking about?
The King, Martin Luther the
Oh, I think you're
King.
gonna say Elvis. Yeah,
No,
Martin
shout
Luther
out,
King Jr.
shout out,
Doctor
Priscilla. Yeah.
Doctor Martin Luther King Jr. Yeah.
Hmm.
So if you're listening to this today, the day of release, would be Monday, January 16th, 2023. Today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. We celebrate it every year, in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his goals, his aspirations, his dream for what America could and should be, across the board, right? From fucking sea to shining sea, as it were, for all Americans, regardless of, race, color, fucking whatever, you name it, right? Didn't matter. Orientation, fucking religious beliefs. You live here, you're an American, you get the same goddamn right, regardless.
Right. That's how it should be.
It should be. Yeah, absolutely. Like it should be. And like I said, like he went through that whole process. I mean, fuck, dude, like he was an activist for pretty much all of his adult life. I mean, had been arrested for it. Attempted assassinations. Did you know that? He was somebody attempted to stab him. I think it was like
Yeah.
1958, I believe.
Female, female, barely missing really serious stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I gotta tell you, if you're in that type of business and people are trying to kill you, you're on the right track.
But wait a minute, well, yeah, that's true. That period of time though, people were getting taken out left and right, man.
Yeah, they
60s
were.
and 70s were fucking wild, man. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy, Medgar Evers.
Yeah.
We can probably sit here and just keep on going on and on and on and on about the fucking people who were murdered, because
They
they
wanted better.
yeah, they want it better in their own head, because there's some assassination attempts that didn't work out. Um, what was that guy in the South? He was super racist as fuck, shot and then paralyzed.
I don't know.
I have his face in my head. I know the listeners probably at home screaming it.
Somebody's like, God damn it, this is his
Yeah,
name.
but he was racist as fuck, and he got shot. And
Um,
am I like pumped about that? No, because it's still like murder. You know, you got to let people have their beliefs, and hopefully, people that don't agree with it just won't vote for them. But taking a gun and fucking wiping somebody out is fucking crazy, bro.
was it the Alabama governor, George Wallace?
There you go, George Wallace. Thank you so much for looking that up. Even though I'm sitting right in front of my computer, and I could have looked it up on my own. You know why?
Yeah.
Because
Why? Lay
go
it on
Niners.
me.
Go Niners. Anyway,
Go Niners.
it's the '60s were crazy, man, and the fact that I think he was assassinated in '68. He's only like 39 years old.
Yeah,
Like,
Martin Luther King.
yeah, people
Yeah.
look at him like, oh man, he's a lot older. No, 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 no. He was 39. I think Malcolm X was even younger. Like, you're taking your life into your own hands in the 60s if you stood for something.
Even now, honest to God, like, okay, so you mean, and for our conspiracy theory nuts out there, like, you could potentially say the things that happened back then and how, like, if you stood up for what was right or what you thought was right, in what happened to these people, and then you look at like all the way today and be like,
Mm.
other politicians or whoever, right? Because hey man, you keep pushing this, and you might end up, you might end up dead.
Snuffed out, bro. COINTELPRO. Have you heard of that?
Was it?
COINTELPRO or some. I don't know exactly how you pronounce it. I may be saying it wrong, but it was a FBI program that basically spied on whoever they wanted. And they spied on Martin Luther King, and they found out like some funky stuff about him. I don't know if it was true or not.
So COINTELPRO. So coin, COINTELPRO. Coin, right, is counter insurgency. So but what this would be would be COINTEL, so counterintelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so not counterinsurgency, but counterintelligence. That's interesting.
Yeah. So they bugged his hotel rooms everywhere he went. They had people who were in his circle that were working for them. They were flipped. They were fucking caught doing something else over here. And hey, give us information on Martin Luther King. Like they found out he was a bit of an adulterer. Um, he kind of had a wild life on the other side when he wasn't, marching for peace. Hey, man, motherfucking people have flaws. What are you
Yeah.
gonna
Hey,
way? Like they tried to use that to like threaten him. Like, hey, we're gonna put this out there if you don't stop these marches because we can do this. And, we've done it before. Government is crazy, bro.
so
They took
when
out Kennedy too.
slight parallel, but not completely parallel at all. You talk about like people having a past that nobody knows about, like, and then it being used against them. Who would you say, and you might not have the answer that I'm looking for this, but like, who would you say is the greatest lawman of the Wild West?
Quiet up, fool.
Wyatt Earp, right? Damn, man. And here I was thinking you might not know. Wyatt fucking Earp. Did you know that Wyatt Earp was he was arrested for stealing horses. He was a horse thief in his early youth.
He was a wild boy. He was doing some wild
Yeah.
shit today. Ran a
Yeah.
fucking whorehouse and all that.
All that. Yeah. He was doing all kinds of wild shit. Next thing you know, he's out there fucking killing these cowboys,
Yeah.
laying waste.
Legendary. Legendary.
And really, actually, when you read about the OK Corral, or his he and his brothers and fucking Doc Holliday's rampage against the Cowboys. I mean, they only killed, I think it was two in the OK Corral, and then they only went after four. They only killed four of the Cowboys, and one of some fifth one or sixth one, four or five. Another one turned themselves in, but like out of an entire gang, that's it's not really
Mhm.
but I guess for the time, it's like, fuck,
Yeah.
man, Wyatt Earp's out here like kicking ass and taking names.
People were bored as fuck, man.
We
Like,
got
man,
nothing to talk about. Well, yeah,
man, we up here in Montana, we just got the wire that Wyatt Earp is out of here cleaning house. Like,
the
that's,
wire. Yeah.
that's interesting.
Well, hey, have you ever been down to Tombstone in Arizona?
Yes, I've been there. I fucking walked the streets, son.
Yeah,
I've
me
been there.
too. Me too. Me too.
I felt the dirt under my toes, and I,
Uh,
and I felt the you know the actors because they
you're
ran
right.
at
Yeah,
so I was like I
yeah,
was there
yeah.
virtually.
You're
Over there.
right. I was there years
Yeah.
and years later. Yeah, no,
Mhm.
I went there too and didn't get the same vibe. I was not. It didn't feel magical to me, which it sucks, right? Because I'm a very like historic minded person, right? So I like staying in places and being able to like envision myself in the times when this place was in the midst of its hustle and bustle, and you really couldn't do that with modern day Tombstone. You couldn't, in my mind, I couldn't take myself back to OG Tombstone. But can you imagine though, sitting there and there's like 15 wooden boxes set up to be shops and saloons, because that's all they were, right? Just wood slapped together. And and you're just sitting there, no job. Maybe you got a job. Maybe your job is herding goats. Who the fuck knows?
You're a
And your goats are herded for the day, and you're just sitting there on this like wooden platform of some type, drinking some type of alcoholic beverage because God knows in that part of fucking Arizona, water's fucking scarce. And you're just like, well, this is life.
yeah. This is as good as it gets.
Fuck all going on. Like there's two things going on in Tombstone, right? And that's Jack and shit.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? Like, well, except for back then, there was crime.
This is shit, boy. It was man walking around, fucking going from saloon to saloon, just fucking punching fools out.
Yeah. You're
Bow.
under arrest. I don't
Yeah.
think so. Cut you. Now you're dead. Sucks for
Crazy
you.
bullets everywhere.
And this has
Wild West.
absolutely
That's why they
nothing.
call it the Wild West, man.
Yeah.
Crazy. Has nothing to do with Martin Luther King, but we in here.
Yeah. This has nothing to do with Dr. King, but
Yeah.
you know how conversations go.
Yeah. Our conversations. Welcome to before I forget if you are new to our drifting conversations. But one thing that I did want to talk about
Yeah.
before we go on to something else, when I was at Tombstone, Arizona, if you look at everything just behind the buildings, it's big hills. You know, you saw it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I pictured that more than I pictured the buildings that were there. I'm sure maybe some of those buildings were there, you know, they're being refurbished and all up to code and all this kind of stuff. But everything just past that is where all this shit really happened. That's the
Right.
shit that I've daydream about is, man, driving through it. I'm like, man, it was probably some wild ass fucking shootouts going on through here, some fucking horse chases or some shit. Somebody stole some, you know, there was a ransom. They had crazy shit like that back then.
Right. You know, I
They were
wonder
running away from the ransom, and you know, it was wild.
I wonder
Like,
if I wonder if we hear like stories about shootouts from the Wild West and we make them much bigger than they actually were, right? So like you're out there in Maricopa County, Arizona, in BFE nowhere, and you hear about a shootout that happened here 150 years ago between this posse and that posse.
yeah,
And really what it was like 5 dudes on horses and 7 dudes on horses over there, and they came across each other somehow in this big vast open space, and I don't like you because the scarf you had hanging out of your Levi's, because those were things, and I'm going to shoot at you with my 6-shooter, but they're not super accurate at very long distance, so nothing's going to hit anything. And I'm going to go blow, 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 blow off the back of my horse. And they're going to do the same thing. And maybe they got the Henry repeater rifle or some bullshit. And they might actually impact somebody, hitting them in the fucking shoulder, and they go fucking down. And, you know, oh shit, we're outgunned. And they both fucking kick rocks the opposite direction. And the whole altercation lasted like fucking a minute and 30 seconds. And then it's
but
done with.
we're talking about it hundreds of years later.
Yeah, and we're like, oh my God, this massive shootout happened. It was insane. All hell broke loose. It was like, as in Boondock Saints, there was a firefight. And it was like this big, like dramatic thing. And really, it was just a couple of dudes taking pop shots at like unrealistic distances for their shooting abilities. And then they ran away.
Yeah. This whole OK Corral thing, the blacksmith who was just down the street, he looked out his shit. He's like,
Huh.
just Tuesday to him. He didn't give a crap about that. It was the
Ting,
Wild West, baby.
ting, ting, pop, pop, pop.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Ting,
Yeah.
ting. Yeah.
That time of day already, huh? Goddamn.
I guess it is lunch break.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck. Old Betsy didn't pack my biscuit.
But the flip side, and we're going even deeper into the fucking dude, he probably got to hang out with Wyatt Earp at some point, like
Who's
or
that?
Doc Holliday, this blacksmith that I created in my head.
Yeah. Well, there surely was one. They had horses.
Yeah, for sure. So like you got to intermingle with fucking some wild shit. Like you weren't in the shootouts and or anything, but you were around it. You know what I mean? Like if you think about it, it's going to be the same way in hundreds of years later from now when they're going to be like, oh man, you guys were around, or those people were around when these people were here. Like when you were around when Madonna was alive.
Yeah.
That must be crazy because she was a wild bitch. some shit like that.
Yeah.
We're saying the same shit as Wild West was crazy, man. They was around Doc Holliday and he was sick, but he was still blasting people. So
You just have to wonder, right? So they say in history, right? Wait, what is it? The spoils go to the victor, right?
mhm,
Kind of suggesting that like the whoever wins the war gets the right history.
yeah.
And we know that like the gangs and the posses of the Wild West obviously didn't make it too far because it's not a sustainable lifestyle, and you have the lawman and in every little town, and then we established other different things like county law and federal state law, federal law. So we have different levels of law enforcement. Then the United States military gets involved in things, and
Mhm,
that was a big thing back in the day. We used the United States Army to do all kinds of shit that we probably shouldn't have been doing back in the day. Um, so like not a sustainable lifestyle if you're on the bad side of things, and so then you got to look at like, man, like what stories do we tell? What stories of heroics and badassery do we tell in modern times about people from back in the day? And you have to wonder, like, there had to have been people from the 1800s who did way more spectacular things than wipe out a couple of dudes in the Wild West down in Tombstone.
mhm.
Um, and there probably were. There were probably some pretty badass dudes up in Alaska who were just fucking, weathering the cold and fighting off fucking, Sasquatch and shit.
Whole bears just out there fucking boxing them,
Yeah,
and
just
it's
like
just
punching them right in the nose.
a Wednesday afternoon for Tobias
Tobias.
boxing out bears in Arizona.
Punch you right in the bear dick.
Yeah.
So like you gotta think like, when do these stories really become popular? Like like 40, 50, 60 years later, somebody's like, oh my God, I just found this journal entry that somebody had written about some guy named Wyatt
Mm,
Earp. Oh, you mean Wyatt Earp? I remember hearing stories about him when I was a little boy. I was about yay high. You living out yonder, and I remember hearing about the lawman who done such and such and such. You know what I mean? And it
yeah.
becomes like a big fucking pop culture thing.
Mm. A lot
So
of people.
it's hard to
Uh,
make pop culture out of modern times, right? Because now we have access to the internet, and it's just easy to be like, well, fucking fact check straight away.
yeah, yeah. People
You
don't
could
realize like that time really wasn't that long ago. And I'm gonna get
mm,
something cool, and you're gonna love the segue. That time,
segue it.
yeah, that time wasn't that long ago. Wyatt Earp, he died in the uh, early 20th century type.
19 like 29, if I'm off the top of my brain case, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Like he worked out of L.A. like towards the end of his life. So
Yeah.
I,
Oh shit. Oh my, holy fuck.
what's up?
Wow, that was a great shot in the dark on my part. January 13th, 1929. So we are 2 days after his death anniversary.
And
Damn.
right around Martin Luther King's birthday. Look at that
Segue.
in
Kind of.
1929. So you spoke about people's stories not being told.
Hmm.
Um, we spoke about what we need to talk about on this episode, and it hit me like something that you just said is the perfect segue into. In World War II, there was a war.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy, right? And during that war, there were heroes that did shit, and they were awarded, uh, or they were recipients of the Medal of Honor. It's the highest fucking award the military or the U.S. government gives our military folk. If you
Yeah.
get one of these, you're the shit for for whatever's remaining of your life, because odds are you won't make it.
Most
Um,
of which have been awarded posthumously. So for those that don't know what that means, post death, like you've died.
yeah.
Most of which are awarded posthumously.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and to be clear, like I'm sure they were not thinking I'm going to go get the Medal of Honor for this brave shit. They were probably in the middle of, and we're going to talk about some of them, some wild ass shit, and to survive and to save their friends. They went into a burning vehicle. They jumped onto a grenade. They led their men out of something totally, they were completely surrounded and fought their way out of it. There's a lot of people that you hear about in World War II that did things, but there's a lot of people that you don't. And you didn't hear a lot about Black folk doing World War II. And there were no Medal of Honor recipients that were Black from World War II.
Not one. What
Not,
about World War One?
I think
Are you
there were two,
two?
if I'm not mistaken. They were seven people, six of them, posthumously,
Posthumously.
uh, that were awarded the Medal of Honor. Not awarded, I'm sorry, recipients. They finally received their fucking recognition for the wild shit that they did, that they, gave their lives for whatever reason. They're finally getting that recognition because, they were discriminated against by the fucking people who, they're out there trying to save. Fucked up. But here we are, and those seven dudes, there's one guy who, and I'm gonna look it up because I don't want to get it wrong. Vernon Baker, he was actually present to receive the honor. And it's cool they got the recognition for it all these years later. Right on, right on. That's great. But, you know, God, I wish we had did better back then.
So, on that, so out of the, I think we're at what did I say earlier? 3,470, I believe it was, medals of honor awarded in since its inception, right? Only 91 have been awarded to Black men. 91. That's an insane number. That's an insane number. Well, so when we talked about this earlier in the pre-show, we're like, okay, so we can go back to, and so Black folks have been able to serve in the military in some capacity pretty much since like the Revolutionary War,
Mm-hmm.
right? But never really in important roles until the Civil War, right? In the North, they were able to do some pretty incredible things, um, like some like secret squirrel, fucking, like let's save some dudes in the South kind of things.
Yeah.
But the only person we tend to remember is Harriet Tubman, who did great shit. But then we get into modern warfare, not to be confused with Call of Duty, and we get into that, and it's not really until, I mean, what was it like? World War One, like some dudes weren't allowed, like Black folks weren't allowed to serve in certain capacities because they weren't able to see well at night. Right? You get what I'm saying? Like, oh,
Like
because of
really
your
ridiculous ass fucking
stupid shit. Like, oh,
stereotype.
you're not a great swimmer because you're Black. You
Yeah.
can't see at night because you're Black. So
Mm-hmm.
therefore, you can't serve in these roles. So go to the Navy.
Yeah.
Um, so that is really interesting. So even when you take that into consideration, that's still a very small percentage of recipients of the Medal of Honor that are Black. It's an insanely low number, and that's not to say, it's not, to me, it's not indicative of the accomplishments of Black folk in the military today, because I mean we have a lot of dudes like doing amazing things
Mm-hmm.
across the force, in combat, and they're just, sometimes they make it, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
I was actually having a conversation. Oh man, I can't remember. And you and I may have talked about it too, but so I know for sure I've had this conversation a handful of times with several different people, but like, and I may be getting ahead, but like one of my favorite all time um Medal of Honor stories is Alwyn Cash.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think my favorite is Roy Benavidez, because that dude is a straight up fucking animal when you read his citation, and we've read it on the show before.
Yeah.
But Alwyn Cash's story is just one, it's insane, like what this man did to save his fellow troops. And for us, it's kind of more, it's personal as well, because Tyree and I, we served in Samara, Iraq, in February 04 to February 05. Alwyn Cash in his unit, he was with Alpha Company, 15th Infantry, and 3rd ID, 3rd Infantry Division. He was operating out of Samar, Iraq, and he received his Medal of Honor for actions on 17 October 2005. So just a handful of months after we were there, this man was doing the thing that he did to receive the Medal of Honor. And it's kind of, it's so, to break it down. Actually, I'm just going to read it to you because this is insane. While on a nighttime mounted patrol near an enemy-laden village, the Bradley fighting vehicle, which is a tracked vehicle that we used in the mechanized infantry, which Sergeant First Class Cash was commanding, was attacked by enemy small arms fire and an improvised explosive device, or an IED. The IED disabled the vehicle and engulfed it in flames. Right, these tracks, they have fuel banks in them, and those can go up pretty easily depending on the type of explosion that hits them. So Sergeant Cash, all in Cash, extracts himself from the vehicle. So he is free from the vehicle. This thing is on fire. It's engulfed, and he is out of it. He's like, good to go. I am safe.
Safe, good to go. Fine.
Yeah. He decided, you know what? My crew is still in there. So he goes back and he gets the driver out. He pulls the driver out of the vehicle. So this goes on to say, like, after opening the driver's hatch, Sergeant First Class and a fellow soldier extracted the driver, who was engulfed in flames. So now the driver is out of the vehicle, but he's on fire. During the course of extinguishing the flames on the driver and extracting him from the vehicle, Sergeant First Class Cash's fuel-soaked uniform ignited and caused severe burns to his body. So you got to think that this dude is covered in fuel. He was just blown up in an IED. He just pulled out his driver, who was on fire, put him out, catches on fire himself. And he says, you know what? I'm not done, because I know there is a crew of people in the back. So he returns, says, ignoring his painful wounds, Cash then moved to the rear of the vehicle to continue aiding his fellow soldiers who were trapped in the troop compartment. At this time, the enemy noted his movements and began to direct their fire on his position. When another element of the company engaged the enemy, Sergeant First Class Cash seized the opportunity and moved into the open troop door and aided 4 of his soldiers in escaping the burning vehicle. Having extracted the 4 soldiers, he went back and noticed 2 other soldiers had not been accounted for and again entered the vehicle to retrieve them. At this time, reinforcements arrived to further suppress the enemy and establish a casualty collection point. Despite the severe 2nd and 3rd degree burns covering the majority of his body, he persevered through the pain to encourage his fellow soldiers and ensure they received needed medical care. When medical evacuation helicopters began to arrive, Allen Cash selflessly refused evacuation until all of the other wounded soldiers were evacuated first. His extraordinary heroism and selflessness above and beyond the call of duty were keeping with the highest traditions of the military service and reflect great credit upon himself as unit of the United States Army. What's crazy about that is, I gotta breathe for a second. What's crazy about that is, like, so for those that don't know, like, he died, right? Sergeant Cash, he was life flighted to Landstuhl, Germany, where he later succumbed to his wounds. He potentially could have survived. Well, first of all, he was safe. As soon as he got out of that Bradley, he was safe on the ground. He didn't have to go back and get his driver, and he didn't have to go back and pull the other 6 crew members from the back. But he did.
Mm-hmm.
He was on fucking fire and pulling dudes from the back of this thing, taking indirect fire, small arms fire. He didn't have to do these things, but like, we have this thing in the military, man, like this fucking brotherhood, this, like, I'm not going to let this happen. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that this doesn't happen. I'm going to give everything that I can. I'm going to sacrifice it all, up to and including my fucking life, to ensure that these others can continue on. And that's exactly what he did. So he refused medical aid until he made sure that everybody else was safe. It's that medical aid that may have prevented him from dying later on. But his concern was his soldiers. One of my favorite fucking stories, because it really, to me, encapsulates what it means to be a recipient of the Medal of Honor, right? This true devotion to your troops, this true concept of like selfless service. Um, the dude gave no fucks about himself. All that mattered to him was these dudes, and that man, that fucking speaks volumes, man.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize, like you explained before, like it's or we explained before, it's the highest award you can possibly receive for your actions, and your actions are saving lives. Um, it's great that we get to talk about this kind of stuff now, but back to my World War II guys, like man, there was so many stories that were probably similar to this that you never heard about.
Yeah.
Um, in Vietnam, there was a lieutenant sergeant, which is kind of funny. Rupert
Yeah.
Sargent. All right, he jumped on two grenades while clearing some tunnels. This is during Vietnam. He's clearing out these booby traps, him and his fucking buddy, and they're clearing these fucking tunnels. I could read the whole thing, but I'm gonna give you the Reader's Digest version. Guy hops out when these freaking Vietnam dudes, Viet Congs. I don't know. That's fucking wrong. That's the wrong word to use.
Well, you had the Viet Cong, the VC, and then you had the NVA, the North Vietnamese Army.
Yeah, you can't see it right now, but I'm pointing at the screen. So use the proper words for the proper people. Anyway, during this interaction, one of these guys hopped out, threw two grenades. All right, Lieutenant Sergeant fired all three rounds and jumped on three grenades with his I'm sorry, two grenades with his body, and absorbed the fucking blow and saved his guys. Didn't even think about it. I mean, you're literally imagine, think about this. Okay, you're in Vietnam. All right, it's already a fucked up place. You don't want to be there. It's funky. It's hot. It bugs everywhere. Plus, these people are trying to kill you constantly. Now you're gonna go through this tunnel, and the main thing you're worried about is somebody jumping out and shooting you, or something. Something starting off, and then a whole bunch of gunfire. But no, it's fucking two grenades tossed, and you didn't think about it. You jump right onto it. Right onto it, man. That's fucking crazy to me. Could I do that?
Oh,
Like you're gonna fucking die. But you don't have time to think about that because you're saving your people, saving your friends. Hopefully,
yeah.
you're not gonna bail, but do what you got to do for yourself. I don't whatever. Um, but just imagine being in that situation and then doing that, returning fire, shooting off a couple rounds, and then jumping on these two grenades, and I just won two of them.
Did you ever, when we were in Iraq, did you ever think about that? Or like, in the years after Iraq, did you ever think about like what if a grenade had been tossed in
Fuck
one of
yeah,
those scenarios?
I
What would you have done?
thought about it all the time. I assumed now, and even back then, I would have jumped on it.
Yeah.
Like thinking about it, like that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That you would even think, like, for one, that you're even in that scenario, and two, like that's a possibility. Like
You're
I
right.
might just have to jump on this to save my friends,
Yeah.
and I would totally do it for my friends because
That's what we do.
that's what we do. What the fuck? It ain't no biggie. We all
It-
believe we're gonna go to Valhalla or whatever the fuck when we die, soldiers. So it's
mhm.
all good. It's a fair trade off. But you didn't think about that when you jumped on those fucking grenades. You thought about saving your friends. It's fucking crazy to me.
So, and I've had that thought too, right? Like, I think we all do. Those of us who served in those positions while
Mhm.
deployed, and I, I actually struggle with the thought, right? Because now that I'm here and away from that danger, I'm allowed to have that thought more deeply,
Mhm.
and I think to myself, okay, yeah, no, I think that I would absolutely do that, and then I'm like, but
Look at what
what
I
if
missed.
what if the grenade landed in a little slump in the ground and it might not have detonated and killed everybody? What if we just all got shrapnel? And I wouldn't know that unless I didn't jump on it. But if I
Mhm.
didn't jump on it, it might kill somebody. You know what I mean? So there's all these like passing thoughts in my mind that like what the other what ifs. But in the heat of those moments, man, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is I'm on this 4-man stack or I'm in the 7-man squad or it's just me and my battle buddy, my combat comrade, my firefight friend, and this grenade rolls out. And because I don't remember which platoon it was. I think it was third platoon. When they were working in Samara with us,
Mhm.
Mr. Bad Guy tossed one of those old ass pineapple grenades over a wall. That was when Weller got the fucking shrapnel in his ass. Remember?
Yeah. Mhm. Funny.
And I
Uh,
remember hearing that story from several of the other guys, and they saw the grenade come over the wall. A bunch of them yelled grenade, and they all scattered. And he just happened to be the closest to it when it detonated.
mm.
Now, granted, they were out in the open. They had the street and the sidewalk, and they had a means of escape from the grenade. So that may have been the best course of action. But then we think about when our battalion, uh, the 26th Infantry Regiment, went back to Iraq in 2006. Ross McGinnis,
Yep.
grenade was tossed into the Humvee in which he was riding in, and to protect the other members of that gun truck, Ross smothered the grenade and died from it and received the Medal of Honor. And you're talking about this guy jumping on two. Like there's no coming back from that. So when we were deployed, we had IBAs, body armor, right? So a vest that we wore over a body that was like the inside of the vest had soft Kevlar, right? And then inside of that, we had these what we called SAPI plates, the ceramic plates that could absorb 7.62 rounds, 308 rounds for you civilian hunter types, up to three. And then anything beyond that, we were looking at penetration. And we had to rely on the soft Kevlar to slow down the projectile. Um,
Good luck.
yeah, right. Yeah, good luck.
Mhm.
And now you're talking about like with this body armor, I can jump on a grenade and there have been there I've heard stories or a story or two of somebody doing that and surviving. They're in great fucking pain. You're
Yeah.
talking like destroyed fucking body parts and collapsed lungs and definitely TBI, traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
Um, but then you go back to Vietnam, the only armor they had was the helmet they wore on their head, and it's not like this fella took his fucking helmet off and put these two grenades inside of his Kevlar, his steel pot, and sat on top of them, which would still fuck him up really bad.
Yeah. They were
Like,
clear booby traps. He probably didn't even have the helmet. He's probably
yeah,
just doing routine type shit.
and now he's on top of two grenades. It's wild when you think about like the split second decisions that we have to make in these situations, and you think about what was going on in America um, during the Vietnam War, with the civil rights movement and what Dr. King was trying to accomplish within, our borders. Um, you know, rights and liberty and freedom to all, right? Regardless of who you are, what you are, where you come from. If you're an American and you live here, you get the same freedoms. So you have this black man, this black American serving in the military during a time when segregation was still a thing, integration was in its infancy, and black people were still mistreated, and racial slurs everywhere, and separate water fucking fountains, and you can't come in here because you're this color, and you can't sit on this part of the bus because you're this color. And this man serving in the squad of people says, you know what? No, fuck that. Like, it's not about what color my skin is or what color their skin is. It's about my comrades, my brothers, my fucking family. And that, man, that is fucking, to me, that I mean, I don't know, man. Like, how the fuck do we get away from that?
It's not that we got away from it. It was we didn't too many people didn't agree with the war.
That's not
And
what I mean. That's not what I mean.
oh,
that's
I'm
that's
sorry.
not what I mean.
How do we
Like
get away from honoring the people who serve us?
Not even that. I mean, like, yeah, we're definitely way off of that because I mean, we try, right? As an American, as American people, we try to do that. But like, there we are in this 20-year war in Vietnam, in the midst of the Cold War as well, shortly after the Korean War and the World War, you know, where all people are in it. It affects everyone. Yet if you're black in America, you don't count. What, like, how is that how was that ever a fucking thing? And when we have stories like this guy, right? Like we know this fucking story. And do you honestly think that he sat there for a second and is like, you know what? If I was back home in fucking Montgomery, Alabama, these motherfuckers sure as shit wouldn't jump on a grave for me. Do you think for a fucking second while he was there in that situation that he thought to himself, well, you know, if the roles were reversed and I was in that guy's position, he's a white guy and he was here and I was standing there, that he would jump on these grenades to save my life?
Yeah. No.
This dude didn't think about that shit, man. It wasn't about black or white. It wasn't about like, you know, who are you? Where are you from? It was about I'm going to keep them alive because the mission needs to happen. I need to keep them alive. They have families, they have loved ones, they have a mission, they have life, and we are family. We're a brotherhood. Do you know what I mean? How did we get so far removed from that? Because I mean, you think about like what Dr. King was trying to do with his dream, right? Like he wanted equality for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
All men are created equal. Do you think in that fucking moment that like that guy thought for a second, like, well, I'm not treated equally back home, so there's no way I'm taking this?
No.
Absolutely fucking not. It's just wild to me to think that, right? Like in Vietnam, this guy's sacrificing his life to save his comrades, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, doesn't matter. Meanwhile, his fellow Americans, you know, are trying to figure out which fucking fountain is okay to use.
Yeah. I mean, I was saying the guys in Vietnam, you know, the people who didn't agree with it, whatever, they came back and they weren't even welcome. Period. There was a lot of people who still, you know, if you ever meet a veteran from Vietnam, welcome them home because they didn't hear that shit when they got home.
Yeah.
They heard a lot of political bullshit from the left and
Spit
right,
on.
center, and it was fucking crap. It was real shitty for the Vietnam veterans. So if you ever see one or you know one, thank them for their service and welcome them home.
Yeah.
Anyway, imagine, you know, living that kind of life out there in Vietnam, you know, uh, life's on the line every day. It, not just from the fucking enemy, from everything, because it's fucking Vietnam. And you come back home thinking that somebody gave a shit and they did not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fucking that was the reality. That's what we put our people through. That's what some shit like that still happens in some cases is prejudice. We spoke about, you know, racism isn't something that's, you know, you're born with. That's
Mm-hmm.
something you're taught. And that's been taught for generation and generation and over. And we don't like black people. And you can't drink after a black man's, you know, fountain. And if that black man whistles at you, you tell me we're gonna fucking lynch him and all that kind of shit. That's taught. You know, I can switch a baby with a baby. I can take a black baby and put him in a white family and a white baby and put it in my family. And he's going to be raised how I raise him. The black baby's going to be raised how he's raised on that side. So it's a taught thing. And I wish that we were more mature back then to realize that um, that kind of teaching needs to be thrown out of the window and we need to welcome our gods back. And speaking of teaching, how were you educated on Martin Luther King when you were in school, or other black leaders for that matter?
We weren't.
No.
No. Um, I mean, I say that. So I was aware of who Martin Luther King was. I've
Mm,
heard I had heard of Malcolm X, but only because of the movie.
mm,
Um, and in case people who are listening and watching don't know, like I like history. When I was in high school and junior high, like I paid attention to history, and those were my best subjects, and it wasn't really taught. Like the civil rights movement wasn't really taught, like what these folks did. I like I said, I'd heard of Martin Luther King, I had heard of Harriet Tubman, I've heard of Rosa Parks, I'd heard of all these people, but like very basic, right? Like Rosa Parks didn't was told to sit at the back of the bus, and she says, "No, I'm going to sit here, and now we can sit wherever we want." Right? That was the gist of it. That's how it was taught. Yeah. But and I grew up in a small town in Arkansas, predominantly white school, predominantly white town.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it really wasn't much taught. I will say that I did hear some stories from my dad who grew up during that time in Arkansas. Um, my dad, my dad was born in 1945, and so during the 60s, when the late 50s and going into the 60s and early 70s, my dad would have been in his 20s going into his 30s. Yeah, so he was very much present for a lot of this stuff when integration happened. What was it, the Little Rock in Little Rock where the black kids were, I cannot remember what it's called, what it's referred to as, the Little Rock 7 or Little Rock 9, I believe it was. Um, so my dad, would have been around for all that stuff. And so I heard some stories from him and what that was like. My dad served in the Arkansas National Guard during that time, and at one point in time, his unit was called up for riot control in Little Rock during integration. Um, so that was really interesting to hear from his perspective and what they were doing. My dad did say uh, he wasn't. It wasn't. He wasn't. 1957 was when the Little Rock Nine happened, September 2nd, 1957. So my dad wasn't around for that, but like integration and all that stuff was still going on when my dad served. And like I said, so some of his leaders had been in the military for X amount of time, and they had some pretty fucked up opinions on integration, and my dad wasn't really with it. So my dad grew up in East Arkansas, right? He is from the country. He's a country boy. My dad, it's funny. I being from Arkansas as a white man, I have been called racist just because of where I'm from, right? I'm a white guy from Arkansas, so naturally I'm racist. And one of my favorite rebuttals was, how can I be racist? And this is gonna sound fucked up. Please tell me if it is. I should probably stop saying this, but like, how can I be racist if my dad picked cotton?
Jesus, don't say that.
Well, but but the whole point of it was is my dad did pick cotton. He did, and it wasn't ever meant to be that way. And as I say, yeah, it does sound fucked up, but it was, the point was, my dad grew up poor. Yes, he was not a slave. Like you go back to the 1800s and you talk about slavery, but when you talk about poverty in the U.S. during that time, my dad grew up right next to these folks. He had black friends, he had white friends. They all grew up the same way, impoverished. One of my
Wow.
uncles was born in a smoke shack, a wooden shack meant to smoke meat. My uncle was born in that, right? There was no fucking hospital. Right? This is 1945 in Arkansas. You're talking about like there was no modern anything, you know. Um, so the point of me saying that was to be like, this is how my dad was raised. He even lost two fingers in a cotton gin. Like he was feeding cotton into the cotton gin, and the blades that receive the cotton as you're feeding it in caught his left hand, and ripped his index finger off below the knuckle, his middle finger off at the knuckle, and he's got these like blade marks across his palm, um, from where the blade cut into his hand. But the point of me saying that, the point of me making that comment was like, my dad grew up just the same as they did, and to him there was no difference. It didn't matter if you were black or white. You worked for what you got,
Yeah.
and that's how I was raised. You know what I mean? And so when he would tell me stories about like when he was doing National Guard stuff, the Arkansas National Guard during integration, he heard some pretty fucked up things from supervisors. If you see any, you know, racial slurs, fucking shoot on sight. And he was like, not gonna do that
Yeah.
because that's fucking stupid. Do you know what I mean? And admittedly, my dad was also a troublemaker in the army. You know what I mean? My
Mhm.
dad always joked, like, he's like, I came in as an E1, and when I left the army, I had no collar to pin rank on. They took my collar away. Like, I was demoted that much.
Yeah.
And because my dad didn't really care about that type of authority, but he sure as shit wasn't going to give into something like that. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah. Something to stand on. Something that
yeah.
he thought was the right thing to be. And well, shit, the right thing to be is actually the right thing. It's
What?
holy fuck. Like I met your dad, your pops is cool as shit. Um, but I asked like, well, why were you educated, or how were you educated
Mhm.
on that kind of stuff? Because I went to Bennett Q Elementary in Inglewood, California. Uh, they made such a big deal about Black History Month. Man, you if you had a good day, you got to wear the Peace Prize for the day. Um, we drew pictures of Martin Luther King and this and that, but we didn't learn about Malcolm X or anything like that. We learned about the mainstream shit, like, kind of like what you said. So like they tried to make a big deal about it, and I think for the most part they did. So I'm proud of what they accomplished back then because I was able to learn more about stuff.
Yeah.
Not like they told me about Martin Luther King. Sorry. So I wanted to learn about Malcolm X. And then, I learned about Malcolm X. So now I want to learn about this and I want to learn about that. And, you know, I want to learn about, slavery, and I want to learn about how we fought, on both sides, believe it or not. I want to fucking learn about all that stuff because that's where I came from. I
Hmm.
can't say you because you're not black. It is what it is. You're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
black.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's no fucking way you can get around it unless DNA tests, back in the day, some wild shit,
Yeah. We're all
whatever.
traced back to Sudan or some bullshit somewhere in
Yeah,
Africa. Yeah,
but
yeah,
no, but I'm saying like, learn about your fucking history. It
yeah.
could be ugly. It could be real ugly, but I think you should know about it so you don't repeat those same mistakes because we're kind of sliding into those same kind of mistakes,
Hmm.
like on the sly, not like out in the open in public, but like really, really like clearly racist shit that's people can vote on.
Oh yeah,
Like, what the fuck? Why is this on a ballot?
yeah,
The way they treat that whole gay lesbian community. Uh, they don't even let those people, and I'm talking like they don't even allow them to have weddings and be married in some states.
yeah.
Like, could you imagine that? Like, you can't even marry the person that you love because of the state that you live in.
Imagine, imagine the government telling you can or can't do something
Yeah,
because of who you love, what you like. That's a whole other topic that I don't want to get into.
you don't.
Oh God, no, not right now. Give
Oh no.
me, give me 6 months to 9 months.
Okay, yeah, I got you. I got you.
Yeah,
I can talk about it though.
yeah,
I'm saying though, like that's what it was. You learn what you can, and you let go of what you can't. And there are a lot of people who just can't let go of that old shit. And
hmm.
here we are, like I say, we're voting on that kind of stuff. Like, man, why is that even on the ballot? Um, that community is treated less than human. Um,
Well, what's
why,
interesting,
why are we even still like that? Like, yeah, okay, we can sit anywhere on the bus now, but if you're gay, you're fucked. You can
what's
just now say gay in the fucking army without somebody hemming you up.
yeah, interesting to note. Historically, the American people have always been pitted against some other subculture within the American community, whether it be Black folk, whether it be Asian folk, whether it be the LGBT community. Um, we are constantly programmed and routinely told this is the enemy. Sometimes overtly, sometimes covertly. So we're always given this directive, if you will, that states they are not like you. They should be shunned. And it always relates to, in some way, shape, or form, they can always trace it back to some passage within some religious text. Um, and then that becomes what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, really don't want to go into that either, because I definitely don't want to like go down that rabbit hole, for one. And two, I have some pretty if you know me in my personal life, um, folks listening and watching, I have some pretty strong opinions on some of the shit that I just said, that I will debate any motherfucker on.
I
But
cannot.
what
I can't, wait. Let me just stop you for like a half a second. I know
yeah,
you're on, the road, but I cannot wait until you're out of the army so you can talk about shit. This is going to be a special show because we're going to be able to pop off crazy. But continue.
well, I mean, so all I will say is there is not a single person in existence today, in the future, or in the past, going back 90,000 years to the beginning of the Homo sapien species, that is not due a fair life within their community, except pedophiles.
I think we can all agree on that. It's really
I don't give a fuck what color your skin is, what color your eyes is, what political stance you have, what God you pray to, what orientation you have. If you like to have sex with dudes or chicks or fucking multiple dudes or multiple chicks or all of them, I don't give a fuck if you think that you were born as a man, you want to fucking cut your dick off, become a woman, or vice versa. I don't fucking care. You have the absolute right to freedom in this country across the board. On this planet, you have that right. I don't care what country you're from. I don't care your upbringing. I don't care who is in charge of your people. You have the right to live unobstructed and as happy as you want. So long as you're not dicking with other people's lives, you have the right to live happily and peacefully. 100%.
yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say on that.
You have that right, but why there's still
Okay.
obstacles? It's
I
fucking
mean,
lame, man.
yeah.
There's
Well,
still obstacles. Like
yeah.
yeah, we're all treated equal, but like I said, some of us can't marry. You're right. You were all over it. Like, man, I don't give a fuck what you do. Um, but you know, and you're given the right to do what you want to do, but not marriage. You can't be happy with that. You gotta call it something else because that's the Christian thing or whatever the hell. We have to all believe in that. Ooh boy, we're gonna get into some crazy
Uh-huh.
talk, and I might pull back, but
Well, listen, if at the point we get into that particular conversation, when it comes into religion and when it comes to politics,
mm,
like I said, I have very strong opinions on those things, and we will definitely more than likely lose followers and listeners because um sometimes I'm really good about articulating what I want to say, but when it comes to something like this, like I really cannot hold back because it's such a sensitive topic for me, because when you step outside of those realms, I grew up religious and I grew up in a semi political home. And so when you grow up in those things and then you step outside of it, you begin to see the hypocrisy in those things, and you begin to see the hate that springs from those things. I grew up in a household, I'm sorry, I grew up in a church that said you cannot be friends with them because they are gay. Well, who the fuck are you to tell me who the fuck I can be friends with? Well, God says that.
yeah, God said it. I heard him say it.
Suck all three of my testicles.
I was there and I saw it happen. Oh, he's
My point is no, absolutely not. But that again, that's a I don't I'm not trying I don't want to get into it. I really don't. But like it's a whole it's really it's a deep thing for me. It really is because anything that tells anybody that you have to dislike somebody for one of these things, anything that teaches that is wrong. And you're indoctrinating people to believe hate, to give in to hate. And that's what we're talking about. That's what Dr. King was fighting against was this fucking hate because people at the time throughout decades and decades and decades of American history and world history were taught to hate because of the color of that person's skin or because they come from a different fucking tribe across the way or because they paint their faces differently in war or because they pierce their fucking skin in a different completely fucking way or they're from a different fucking country or they speak a different fucking language or they speak the same language with a different dialect or they speak the same language and same dialect with a different accent.
mm,
They're taught to fucking hate these things. They're taught to hate, and that's the goddamn fucking problem is that these people just don't fucking let up. Literally every single person on this planet, and this is pedophiles and fuck included, we're all the same goddamn fucking people. Biologically, genetically, we're the same fucking people. We're the same, where there is no difference, right? You are the same as me. Tyree, you and I, we look a ton different. Very obviously, we don't look anything alike, but we are the same goddamn fucking people. You get what I'm saying? Throughout history, through the 90,000 years that we've been Homo sapiens on this fucking planet, people have been people have been people. It doesn't matter. Stop hating on motherfuckers because you disagree with something they believe in. Okay, so what? They like fucking Ford and you like Chevy. That's no reason to fucking blast at them on the fucking interstate because you think their truck sucks. Or they're from a different fucking town or they're from fucking two streets over. You know about gang violence in the fucking 80s and 90s and now. I mean, even fucking now, oh, because you're from fucking two streets over, you're better than me or you're worse than me. Get fucking fucked. It's fucking ridiculous. You're black. Fuck you. That's wrong. You know what I'm saying? That's
yeah.
fucking ridiculous. We did the same thing. And people want to talk about like, well, it's not that big of an issue now. It's really not, right? It's not at all. What happened in 2020? COVID, right?
All kind of shit. All kind of
Oh,
shit happened. Like, what do you mean with like black folks or like racial
no, with
tension?
people in general. In 2020, COVID happened. And what did we do in
Oh,
America?
we just fucking stayed home.
We hated on Chinese Americans.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was gonna talk about this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
In 2020, COVID happened. We blamed Wuhan, China. Maybe it is,
Mhm.
maybe it isn't. We really have no fucking direct evidence. So we blame the Chinese and we blame Chinese Americans. We blame Asians. And that's the thing. I don't know
It-
about you, man. And I have a friend of mine. She's Vietnamese. Um, and I was talking to her one day and it's like, to be honest, like I can't. And maybe it's just the white guy in me, and maybe it's because I didn't grow up around a ton of Asian folk. But I really can't look at an Asian person and distinguish, Korean from Chinese, from Japanese to Vietnamese, from Laotian to Hmong, and I just can't, right? And so she was explaining it to me and breaking it down and all this other stuff, and I was like, okay, well, I'm still not going to understand it, but like I totally get what you're talking about.
Mhm.
But in 2020, Wuhan was like the epicenter or the of the outbreak. That's where the outbreak of COVID allegedly happened, right? And so now let's hate on all Asians. That was a thing.
That's not new though.
It's not.
You know.
That's the fucking problem. It's recent. That's the goddamn problem. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
It's recent.
It's still here. The
So
first
this
time I ever saw anything racist, I know exactly when it was. Precisely when it was. It was a Bugs Bunny, Donald Duck, and Porky Pig cartoon,
yeah.
and they were mocking Japanese people, speaking with
Oh,
the accent and
the big teeth and all
big,
that. Yeah.
glasses and all this kind of shit. And that was a cartoon. That was shit that kids saw.
Yeah.
That was produced for kids to see. I'm sure it wasn't just for kids because it was like it's some hardcore racist shit in there. But I guess the times they just bombed us, so we have to hate them now. Same thing. They gave us COVID, so we gotta hate them. even though we can't prove it. We can prove the Japanese bombed us, so we have to hate them now. And not only do we have to hate them, we have to teach our kids to hate them.
We did the same thing in World War II when Pearl Harbor happened. We knew that the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. So what did we do? Put all Japanese Americans in internment camps.
Yeah.
Why?
And that wasn't that long ago in the grand scheme of things that America had camps.
80 years ago.
Yeah. So
80.
somebody who's 80 years old, or somebody who was around, may have passed back then, but they were around for that shit. That wasn't like some shit that was created for shits and giggles. That was some real stuff. George Takei,
Yeah.
he's gay, and he had to go through that shit. He was in the closet his whole life. He was in those camps. The guy from Star Trek, if you didn't know.
Yeah. The guy that can do the thing with his hand, I can't do it. Can you do it?
Oh yeah, easy.
I can't do it. I have to like hold it over. I can't do it. No, I
Um,
can't do it. I can do West Side. But no, you're right though. You're not. So that's the thing though, right? So like that was 80 years ago, and like I was holding my hands up a second ago because like if you look at my hands, like you look at like okay, this is 90,000 years of Homo sapien existence. This right here is the last 80 years.
yeah. Well,
This is nothing in comparison. And you want to talk about like okay, so we didn't put Chinese Americans in internment camps in 2020. But the hate that the Asian community received from everybody else is in fucking sane. When the global war on terror kicked off, right, and some jihadists decided to crash a couple planes into a couple buildings in the United States and kill a lot of people on 9/11, what did we as Americans do?
goddamn retaliated sons of bitches.
Yeah, if you were Arab American of any kind, right? If you were from Iran, Iraq, fucking Afghanistan, Pakistan, fucking Palestine, fucking Egypt, you name it. If you were slightly brown and not Mexican, actually, even if you were fucking Mexican, you were fucking hated on
Yeah,
because you were presumably a part of the Islamic community that wanted to see the downfall of the great American empire.
yeah. They called you a sand nigger.
Oh,
Think about that. Think
yeah.
about that shit. Like, not only are you bad for yourself, I'm gonna bring in a whole nother race to downgrade you. Man,
And I know
crazy.
Tyree, I know when we were deployed, I know goddamn well you heard that fucking term from people to our left and right.
Yeah.
What the fuck? You get what I'm saying, man? Is this when you think back to when you think back to that fucking speech, I have a dream, right? Um, what does it say? So I'm looking at it right now. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. When you take that into consideration, and then you hear shit like that, you see shit like that, are we living up to Dr. King's words? If we're in 2020 because of the coronavirus that allegedly came out of the fucking Wuhan, China, we're going to sit here and hate on every single Asian American like as if it's their fault. Are we really living up to that all men and women are created equal?
Uh, you know, some men and a little bit of the women. There's so many different things that are wrong, man. Some of the men can do what they want. Some of the women can do what they want. Like I said, if you're gay, you can't. If you're black, you can't do certain things at certain times of the day. If you're Hispanic, you can only work in the fields. If you're Asian, you fucking brought diseases over here and you eat animals or some crazy shit. Uh, if you were Middle Eastern or from anywhere in that area, you're a fucking terrorist. Like people teach people that, and we can stop it.
Mm-hmm.
We can stop it like right now. We can be like, you can be like, hey man, Billy, I taught you that black people were fucking disgusting niggers. But thinking about it now, they're not that bad. That might change Billy's perspective. Like you can stop it right now instead of making Billy the next kid or adult who picks up a gun and takes it to a grocery store and shoots up a bunch of black folks.
Yeah.
You can stop this shit. It all comes back to the same thing. It all comes back to the same thing.
Yeah.
I have a dream, all equal, all that kind of shit. But because I hate you and your color, Dylan Roof, I'm going to take a gun into a church. I'm going to pray with them and then I'm going to fucking kill all of them because hate.
Yeah.
That's fucking lame.
Yeah.
It's crazy that it's still a thing and it's going to continue to be a thing until somebody does something. And I don't know what something is, but it has to be done.
Well,
I'm one of those people, something has to be done, but what are we going to do?
man. And I spent a lot of time to myself and I spent a lot of time thinking. Um, and I have come to the conclusion that the only thing that can truly prevent this kind of hatred within the human community is for humans not to exist. And I'm not, I know that sounds extremist. That sounds fucked up, right? And that's not where I'm going with this. But like the point of me saying that is, um, for as long as humans exist, greed will exist, hate will exist, dislike for the other side, disdain, all of these things will exist. We're always going to find the next reason to dislike somebody. I think we had talked about a couple of shows ago what the average human will look like in 2050, and that picture that I sent you, and she's beautiful. She's a mix of all of the things that all of these these characteristics, these physical characteristics that you can imagine from folks across the globe. um and she's a very beautiful woman, and I can imagine what the humankind will look like 100 years from now, 200 years from now, through that same progression. And the global population will be continue to blend and blend and blend, and eventually there will be no quote unquote borders when it comes to physical attributes, but we will always find a reason to dislike them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we talked about that before.
Yeah.
There's still going to be hate on the light skinned, uh,
Yeah.
multi, multicolored folk, and then the darker skinned multicolored folk. Even though everyone's the same fucking color, it's still going to hate them
Yeah.
because y'all are fucking weird.
Yeah.
Luckily, I won't be around to see that kind of shit. I want to see the progression of humankind, but I mean, over the last decade, it's gotten so weird. Like,
Yeah.
what am I? How am I around for this? How am I alive for this?
Yeah.
You know, you're in it. What are you gonna do?
Well,
Enjoy it, I guess. But don't be a
yeah.
dick and don't be a racist asshole. Don't. We got two rules in life on this show. Two rules. Don't be a dick. Don't touch kids. Don't be a racist asshole. Don't touch kids. You will be cool in our book. For the most part, yeah. Think about it.
No, yeah, that really does kind of sum it up.
That boils everything down to fucking you can be cool with us if you don't touch kids. Simple. And you're
Don't be
not
a
a
dick.
racist asshole.
Don't
Oh
be
fuck.
just that is pretty funny, actually.
Yeah.
That you probably could summarize. I mean, I know we talk about a lot about like I mean, this show started, veteran stuff, military stories and history, so to speak, and we get into mental health and um domestic abuse and violence and just unnecessary bullshit, and then the struggles that come along with all of these things and different ways that we can combat them, and regroup with our community to make ourselves feel better and to reach out to our friends and our comrades. um and to make sure that they're all doing better. And we want to reduce numbers in veteran suicide. But one of the other messages that we would like to send across the internet is don't be a racist asshole
Mm.
and don't touch kids.
Woo. Everything we did, man.
God damn.
Round of applause for the success of not being a pedophile.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Round a fucking hearty handshake for liking other races. You know, that's all we can ask for. That's fucking lame. Um, but hey, here we are in 2023 trying to figure out race relations.
Man, we're trying to figure out a lot of things. And what's really interesting is here we are in 2023. And me as a white male, I'm not really allowed to have a speaking point on this. Could you imagine, Tyree, if I was to do this show on my own, for example?
Oh man.
Like I'm gonna do an MLK special, right? Me as a
Yeah.
white guy. Okay, sure. Okay. Hey, you can be anybody and appreciate Martin Luther King Jr. And so here I am, white man, appreciating Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on a MLK show, and I'm shot my pen. And here we are. I'm going on this rant, and I'm making all the same points that you're making, and I'm making all the same points that I'm making. I can't make them. I'm not allowed because I, as a white man, I'm not allowed to have certain opinions, and I'm definitely not allowed to vocalize certain opinions, which is really interesting because you, as a black man, you're not allowed to have certain opinions, and you're not allowed to vocalize certain opinions. Is that not fucked up?
That's where we are. That's where we live, man.
Why?
You can have your opinions, but you white man better not have any opinions on black folks.
You know, I've been called a colonizer before.
I believe it. Fucking colonizer.
Yeah. You know where that term came from?
People doing colonies of
Well, that's what it means. But like when it was popularized, I guess is the better question. Do you know when that term was popularized?
Wait, as it a derogatory term or
Generally, yeah.
way back in the day?
Popularized recently
Oh.
when the Black Panther movie came out.
Oh, well, there you go. Wakanda
So,
forever.
no, and it's a good movie for fucking sure. And I'm absolutely, and I know we've talked about that. I think it was like 2 shows ago where we talked about like people of color finally being represented in these roles, and that's fucking great. Because people that do great things are not always just fucking white people. Like we've talked about in the show, we've got fucking Alwyn Cash who fucking straight up fucking delivered, one of the most heroic acts of our modern history. There was the
Indian.
only
I mean, not Indian, but God,
the Native Americans.
Right.
Well, you say American
American.
Indians. Yeah, the American. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Native American out there doing it.
yeah. Right.
Color
Yeah.
didn't matter. Race didn't matter. He's out there.
And you've got the only black man to ever receive the Medal of Honor twice for non-combat actions. Actually, Robert Augustus Sweeney. In the 1800s, he received the Medal of Honor 2 separate times, one of only 204 people to receive it in peacetime, and one of only, one of only 91 to Black Americans to receive it, and he received it twice. And he received it for saving people while drowning. A matter of fact, fun little tidbit of information: the peacetime Medal of Honor um, peacetime medals of honor recipients are all Navy. I thought that was a really interesting thing.
Hmm.
And they were all in an attempt at saving somebody else's life. But anyway, this guy received it twice for attempting to, or for saving 2 separate people's lives on 2 separate different occasions. And coincidentally, I kind of ironically, he also died at 39 years old, same age as Dr. Martin Luther King. So I thought that was kind of a little interesting side note. But um, basically, the I don't know if we really stayed on target with what the intent of the show was. I know it got, I got a little heated, a little riled up, a little flared up in the emotional department because
I didn't notice.
I one way you can definitely tell that I'm mad is when I take a breath and then I just word vomit
Yeah.
really, and I speak really, 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 really quickly. And if I'm really mad, ooh, man, I'm on a flow. But like, I get so bent out of shape on this particular subject because in my unit, I'm the equal opportunity person, right? And I absolutely cannot fucking stand. There's only been a handful of times where I have gone off on trainees as a drill sergeant. Um, and in one of those situations, it's I mean it's happened a few times, but like one of the things that really absolutely set me off is when it comes to racial shit. Even if it's like, you know, dropping the hard R and rolling with the slang, you know, version, right? Like absolutely not, man. Like I get it. It's pop culture. You hear it in songs, you hear it in movies. But when you're talking about soldiers in uniform, the one thing that we teach is there is no black, there is no white, there's no Asian, there is no Hispanic, there is no Native American. We are all green, right? That's what we teach, right? We're green, right? We're all army. We're all in the military. It doesn't matter where the fuck you came from, what the fuck you believe in, right? So long as you're doing your goddamn job and you're performing to your max and you're giving a fuck about to the person to your left and right and your six, that's all that matters, right? And so when I hear things like that, and it was brought to my attention, this one particular time that comes to mind, we were at first aid. It was in 2017, and uh one trainee comes to me and says, Edward Sergeant, I heard uh Private A and Private B having a conversation over by the latrines, and I heard Private A say to Private B these words, and I just thought that I would let you know. And man, I fucking lost it. I lost it. I don't sit there and I don't take that. I don't allow that. I don't allow that within my ranks. I don't because when you want to talk about, if you're on one side of the aisle talking about how the other side mistreats you, then I think that you have to kind of hold yourself to a certain standard. You have to not allow certain things to be okay. And I think the use of certain terminology should fall within that category. Um, I will absolutely never refer to any person as any type of racial slur. And that's not to say, don't be wrong, I like humor. And I think jokes are hilarious to a degree, right? Like some jokes are just not, they should not be a thing, right? Some jokes, some humor should not be a thing. Tyree and I used to joke all the time back in, I don't I don't know if you remember this, but when we first left active duty, uh you would always talk about like me coming out to California, and I would always talk about you coming here to Arkansas, and I would always talk about like, oh, I'm gonna bring you to a meeting so you can hang out. And like in retrospect, I'm like, that's fucked up, dude. And you would always tell me like, hey, I'm gonna take your ass to South Central and I'm gonna get you shot and this and that. And uh you did.
I'm
You
gonna
took me
dress
to,
in all red, and we're gonna hang out on this corner in particular, in
yeah,
all
yeah. And,
you will
and
red.
yeah, and you did take me to South Central, and I didn't get shot, thankfully. But like when I look back on those moments, I think about like how immature that was and how like bullshit that was. You know what I'm saying? Like it didn't need to be said. It didn't need to be a thing because you're a fucking brother of mine. You know what I'm saying? Like that's fucked up to say, right? But like I don't know, man. But like that's just something that I blow up on. That's something that I'm very like near and dear about. Like so the way I was raised, respect people, respect people. Don't get me wrong. Like my dad, the time in which he grew up in Arkansas, certain terminology was acceptable, and that's how my dad was raised. But that's not how my dad is. Do you know what I mean? Like he was raised with like certain words being the okay words to use in reference to certain folk.
Mhm.
Um, and that's not to say that growing up, like you didn't hear that term, but then you'd hear it and it would be an automatic correction generally, right? It was like because it was like I'm trying to break this 20-year habit, this 20-year of like this is what it's been. You know,
Mhm.
if I've always referred to um the thing that I put my clothes in as a dresser, and now it's going to be considered a bedroom closet, separate, or whatever the fuck you want to, some other name. Right now, I got to break this fucking habit. Right. And so that's kind of what it became. And ultimately, like eventually that habit was broken and it's no longer became a thing in my household. But we learned respect. We learned respect for other people, regardless of where they come from and what they believe and what they look like, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I take it personal. I really do. I really fucking do.
Hey, man.
Like I
We
want
all
to punch people in
take,
the face for it. You know what I mean?
we should all take that kind of stuff seriously. And on that note, I think it's a perfect time to end this show because we've been going at a long time.
Is it the perfect time?
It is the perfect time. I think Siri just heard me say some shit. And fucking in my business. Anyway, the perfect time to end the show. Kevin, you got anything?
The only thing that I'll say is at the end of the day, don't be a fucking dick. Treat all people with dignity and respect, no matter where they come from, what they're into, as long as they're not a fucking pedophile. Dignity and respect. Like it's literally that easy. If you disagree with their life choices, their lifestyle, their fucking color, their religion, dignity and respect, because diversity, like the old saying goes, diversity is the spice of life. Right? If we don't have diversity on this planet, then what do we have? So dignity and respect. And shout out to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah, man.
I
Happy
hope
birthday.
I really, hey man, I know we talked earlier today about like how this show could go, and I really kind of hope that we like stayed somewhat within line, but I kind of feel like we definitely strayed at some parts. But I want people to the biggest takeaway, I think, and you might agree, like, the biggest takeaway from this is like give respect where it's due. Treat everybody equally, and yeah, dignity and respect, man.
And to caveat off that, never mind.
What do you
Y'all
got?
have a good one.
No, what do you got?
No, I got nothing. Have a good one. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay. You know,
Oh, bring it in.
don't
Say it.
we said it before. Don't be a dick and don't be a pedophile. And that's all I got.
Yeah.